this week, an opinion poll commissioned by Bloomberg News placed Labour Party's Peter Obi as the leading candidate in the race to become Nigeria's next president after next year's general election. So according to Bloomberg, a clear majority of respondents to the opinion poll said they intend to vote for Obi, a former governor of Anambra State in southeast Nigeria. The presidential election scheduled for February next year is expected to be a three-horse race between Peter Obi of the Labour Party, the All Progressive Congress's Bola Tinubu, and a former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, who is the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Now we have joining us now for his reaction, Reno Omokri, a member of the PDP. Good day and welcome, Reno. We're going to get straight into it. We've already seen your tweets dismissing the poll. In your words, you said, as our candidate said to AriseTV, most core Northerners are not on any app. They get their news and are influenced via radio. Now, Reno, voter apathy is a massive issue in Nigeria. In the last two elections, we haven't even seen up to 50% of the electorate voting. And in light of this, is it still realistic to assume that all of the potential voters in the coming election are still influenced by radio?
Well, then, if you talk about voter apathy, you want to look at where voter apathy is coming from. So let's look at the facts. The states that had the least number of voters were from southern Nigeria, and specifically southeastern Nigeria. So in northern Nigeria, you had much higher voter turnout than in southern Nigeria. In fact, in Borno State, where you have the insurgency, you had one of the highest voter turnouts. You had high voter turnouts in the northwest. So even when you're saying this about voter apathy, it actually works, in favor of the areas in the north and against the southern Nigeria, and especially the southeast of Nigeria.
So I'm just wondering what was your biggest issue with this polls that were carried out by Bloomberg?
Well, if you look at the polls, if you read the polls, it's a lot of people are, fooled by the kind of language that they use. It's just like when some people tell you they made an omelette and you don't know what an omelette is, so you just assume it's some kind of exotic French dish. It's just fried egg. If you read the Bloomberg report, I read it myself, word for word, everything. They said they used a San Francisco-based pollster to do an app-based poll, and I'm quoting from that report, an app-based poll. What's an app-based poll? So simply, it's just an app that you can use, maybe Twitter or SurveyMonkey, which are the two biggest apps that company actually uses for polls. So when you're using an app-based polls, you see, it's like people in southern Nigeria who've never lived in the north, or foreigners who have no clue about Nigeria, that are going to actually believe that poll. Because apps, generally, they are in English. And if you look at the data, according to Statistica, 30.9% of Nigerians speak only Hausa. They don't speak any other language, they just speak Hausa. Now, if you take in the number of Nigerians that speak Hausa and another language, maybe it goes up to about 42%. But then those people, they speak English as a second language. So when you're having an app, you have to realize that there is a disproportionate number of southerners on social media in Nigeria because of the English barrier. You see, that's why in August of 2016, Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, and because he wanted to find out why in our population he wasn't seeing enough Nigerians on Facebook. And then when he had this consultation, he found out it was the language barrier. And then in September of 2016, Facebook became the first app to domesticate Hausa language in its app. And that's why there was a boom in numbers. So if you're doing an app-based poll on a platform like Twitter or SurveyMonkey, what's going to happen is that you are almost disenfranchising northerners. Because this 30.9, when you say 30.9% of our population, that's almost 72 million people who are not going to be participating in this poll. And if you look at that, they did a poll, 3,973 people on an app. It doesn't make sense. If you want to do a poll in Nigeria, the kind of reflective poll, you have to have boots on the ground. You've got to now take the poll from all geopolitical zones, and then you have to have people connecting with these people, asking them physical questions. Because if you look at it right now, you have 30.9% of Nigerians who cannot access anything in English. This people is not to say that they are illiterates. For centuries, they've had Ajami, which is their Hausa language script. They've got books written in Ajami. As a matter of fact, Nigeria's first prime minister wrote a book, Shehu Umar, in Hausa. So these people, they are literate, not that they are not literate. But if you're doing an app-based poll, you're cutting out a huge, significant portion of Nigeria's population.
Now, Reno, while we're on the issue of polls in general, we saw another one from ANAP, which released, although percentages varied greatly, ANAP had similar results to the Bloomberg poll, then of course the one from the Economic Intelligence Unit, which had different results. Are any of these credible in your opinion?
Well, even the ANAP poll is not credible. First and foremost, if you want to look at it, the ANAP poll was done by Adedo Peterside's foundation. Adedo Peterside is himself a major promoter of Peter Obi. I mean, he can't deny it, and he doesn't even try to deny it. If you go on social media, he's all about Peter. In fact, he's making himself a bruiser of Peter Obi. So obviously, right there, I mean, if it was in a place like America, somebody like that will recuse himself and will. But if you look at the people who did that poll, I mean, they've done a poll similar before in 2014, and then they gave the impression that former President Jonathan was going to win the 2015 election, which he won, but he ended up not winning. So that poll is very, very defective. And it's the same thing I said. If you look at what I said at the beginning of this message, I said southern Nigerians who have never lived in northern Nigeria, and then foreigners, who have no clue about Nigeria, these are people that just come in and then just make assumptions that, okay, well, all Nigerians are on social media. No. Most Nigerians, most Northerners are not on social media. Northerners, they are mostly influenced by radio. And that's why you see that, okay, take BBC for instance. BBC has 17.7 million weekly listeners in Nigeria, even more than they have in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, their biggest audience is BBC Radio 2 of 14.8 million. VOA Hausa has even more. VOA Hausa, you've got about 20.7 million weekly audience. The same thing with Deutsche Welle. There is a reason why the major powers of this world have the Hausa language service. It's because to reach northern Nigerians, you're not going to do that through social media. You're going to do that through radio. And if you want to do a poll, for that poll to be reflective, then you've got to have boots on the ground. I mean, it is delusion for anybody to believe that 72% of Nigerians are going to vote for Peter Obi. Even if Peter Obi himself is not foolish enough to believe that.
Reno, you have been vocal about your disapproval of this, these polls, and also you've been vocal about you not approving of the Labour Party's candidates, the presidential candidate Peter Obi. Some people are reacting to your reaction, saying that if the outcome of this poll actually projected that Atiku Abubakar would win, then you might have seen light with it. So is this really just about the polls, or is it about the fact that you do not approve of the Labour Party's presidential candidate?
Well, that's silly. I was a presidential spokesman in 2015, and then when that poll came out, and you can research this. When that poll came out in 2020, I believe it was December 2014, I was against that poll because I said, look, this poll is not realistic based on what I'm seeing on the ground. And then I was a presidential spokesman. That poll favored my principle, and I spoke against that poll because I said, look, if we believe this poll, it's going to make us complacent. So if I could do that, then I mean, it contradicts what those people are saying now, which is what you're trying to say. Look, I am a patriot, and I know that. Look, I believe in my body, soul, and spirit that Waziri Atiku Abubakar is the best candidate. However, this election is not a do or die affair for me. I want the best for Nigeria, and I believe that whoever wins amongst the three main contestants, that's Waziri Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and Peter Obi, it will be an improvement on the incumbent. So that's the way I look at this election. So, I mean, when you say that, if they are said it was, all I want is for a poll to reflect the reality on the ground.
Now, what is it